What's going on? A couple things I want to talk about actually. Hope everybody's been well, doing okay out here in the free world. I had an experience yesterday morning where I was taking like a whole chocolate bar of like a mushroom chocolate bar, and I was very, very high, but I gained jewels from all my psychedelic experiences. I gained information, awareness through all these psychedelic adventures. Okay. So, I've experienced this as a kid too, but the best way I can explain it, and I didn't know what it was at first. I didn't know what it was. But this depersonalization, it's almost like, it's not almost, what it feels like is you're in your present moment. You're in your present moment, you have the awareness of your present moment, you have a full identity of self, and then all of a sudden it's like you're getting pulled from yourself. Like you're losing your sense of identity, you're losing your sense of awareness, you're losing your sense of senses. Well, not really senses, but it's almost like somebody's pulling you out of your body. Y'all remember, I'm not sure if y'all seen the Doctor Strange movie, but there's a part in there where she's explaining to him energy, chakras, and things like that, and he's like, oh, that shit is not real. And then she like pushes him out of his body. And that's what it feels like. It feels like someone is taking me out of my body. Well, I won't even say anyone's taking out of my body. It's just like I'm like physically, consciously it's almost like it feels like death. How people explain death, like near-death experiences, or when you're transitioning from your physical state into your ethereal state. Like it feels like that because it's like you start losing your sense of just like memories and self, and in that state it's easy to jump into like paranoia, schizophrenia, anxiety, like that gap of that gap in depersonalization between your awareness, your consciousness, and your identity. And I was in that state for like, I would say like, it felt like I was fighting it because I've experienced it before, so it was nothing new to me. It wasn't like, it wasn't all the way dramatic, even though it was. But because I've experienced it before, I knew how to handle it. So I do my research. I try to figure out what that feeling is. I just realized it was depersonalization, and a lot of people actually go through it. And there's certain like THC, there's certain chemicals that can induce that effect too, which is weed and mushrooms. It's even like a when people talk about like ego death, when people talk about just that ego death that you experience sometimes when you're smoking high amounts of THC or you're taking mushrooms. It's this sense of just like losing sense of self. But I feel like in that, when you actually come back to yourself, it's like it's almost like you have a greater awareness of self. Like in that experience of losing yourself, you have a greater sense of self. And that's no different than like life, where in those periods where you feel like you lost yourself, where you go through experiences that you feel like, okay, this is making me lose myself instead of gaining a stronger sense of self, you actually learn more about yourself, because you learn what isn't you and what is you. And in that moment of depersonalization, energetically, I was really tapping into what is me and what isn't me, what energy and what emotions belong to me, and what energy and emotions don't belong to me. I also got a lot of information on the nervous system. I wanted to find out what parts of the brain, what parts of the body activate that trigger that. I was even talking to ChatGPT, and they said that's even a way of like, that's even a form of your body resetting itself, like your nervous system resetting yourself, like the compulsions, like the shaking, and that sense of depersonalization. Is like your body is readjusting itself to suit you better in a way. Like, it's a crazy experience, but as I'm doing the research, as I'm finding the deeper meaning into it, it's actually like your body's way of even detoxing. Like, the more I've been doing a lot of research, it started with fungi, but then now it's with the nervous system. And it's interesting because even the way the way fungi move and communicate is very similar to the nervous system. And so that's what made me start learning more about the nervous system. And I started learning about parasympathetic nervous system, sympathetic nervous system, autonomic, like just all these factors that's playing a part in our lives that we sometimes take for granted, or that we just don't even like acknowledge, just because, you know, we wake up, we go to work, we do our thing, we move, we got, you know, there's systems that's playing in the background that heavily affect our experience as human beings. And yeah, that was just interesting, because in that state I realized, like, okay, so this is the difference between, like, even I was talking to ChatGPT, and I think I'm gonna do another video where I read y'all what we was talking about, like, because I can't do it right now, but you know, the conversation we were having, because it was saying that it was telling me that I had a very, very strong will, because a lot of people don't come back from that, and I understand it. Like, it actually made me have a greater respect for people who are really stuck in a mental illness, or make that define them, because I can see how that happens. Because it's like, in that moment of depersonalization, in that moment of not having a sense of self, man, there are so many things that can like enter you. There's so many like thought forms, there's so many like negative just thoughts and feelings that can, because, you know, usually if you have a thought or a feeling, if you're not strong enough, you're gonna do that action. You're gonna, you know, because I was feeling like, boy, I had to get out the car and like start like just walking. I was about to start really like bugging for a second. Like, I was like, hold on, there's a spirit attacking me, what's going on? And I really had to just sit with self and really just like deal with it and be strong and just stick to my will. And it was an interesting conversation me and ChatGPT was having about it, because it was like, that means you have to not only have a sense of awareness, you have a sense of your soul's awareness. Because for you to still be able to like hold on to yourself and your sense of peace in the midst of, because that shit, like, the thing about mental illnesses, or the thing about just what we experience with the mind, is that we're so used to I'll say me. visually. And if it relates, it relates. But visually, you know, if something's happening to you or something's wrong, 9 times out of 10, a lot of times you can see it, you know, or it's something outside that happened. You know, I hit my hand and now it's bruising. Like I can see, I saw the cause and effect. You know what I'm saying? I was a part of the cause and effect. But see, the things with the mind, a lot of times it's like out of nowhere. And so you're looking for like, okay, like, is there a threat around me? There's no threat around me. That's why a lot of people with mental illnesses even come off crazy or they come off wild, because to the average person, there's no threat around. So it's like, why are you acting in this manner? Why are you behaving in this manner? But what's going on with the person which you would claim has a mental illness or just whatever is that there's an internal battle going on within. Not only that, but we also know that humans can't even see, well, a lot of humans can't even see certain light spectrums. They even said the color purple is not even really real. That's kind of what our body just like, that's just the color that the mind makes when it's trying to see something in a spectrum that it can't even perceive. Like there's so many, the way we even see light, like, is we're not even, it's electrical impulses that's hitting our brain, and we're actually determining what we're seeing. It's not like actually that is that, it's we're making it that. That's even a deep look into the holographic universe. Like look into just, there's a multitude of things when you start learning. It's like, wait, hold on, this universe isn't so. And I even have to remind myself of that sometimes, because it be feeling so physical. Like I woke up this morning kind of lit. Just like, man, this material world can just be so. But then it's like conversations I have with y'all that help me align myself back in the proper. Just help me align myself back in the proper frequency. Because it'd be a lot going on. It'd be a lot going on, not only just physically, but energetically. When you're attuned energetically, there's so many things that are happening. You got radio signals beaming all over the goddamn place. You got radiation waves. You got people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions going through the air. There's just so many things that are affecting us that I don't feel that, you know, us as a just humankind really acknowledge, and really more so make a life and a society based off of that too. And even in that experience, it was very interesting, because at first it was like I was looking for a threat. I was putting the blame on something outside of myself. And what I've noticed even in that is you got to be careful, especially in the spiritual world. We talk about, I wouldn't even say spiritual world, but the spiritual community, where we talk about curses and all these things. You always have to be very careful that you're not giving that the power, because that's when you be consumed. And I even saw it in that state. I saw how people become like how, and I made a video on this before, but like it's a thin line between spirituality and mental illness. And I don't think a lot of people are gonna say that honestly and truly, but it is a very thin line. I don't want to say very thin. There's still a ledge. Like, there's foundation. It just looked like that bridge off of Dragon Ball Z. Oh, it just looked like that bridge off of Dragon Ball Z where, nigga, you bust your ass, nigga, it's over. You fall off this motherfucking cliff, it's over with. But it is a thin line in a way between just the psychology of the brain and spirituality. Because I've said this before, if you're not careful enough, which I feel like has happened in my journey, was that I wasn't balancing out. Science and spirituality should be aligned. You should not be a person where, to me, what I had to learn is, because sometimes what you can do is spirituality can help you become more delusional. A lot of times people who are attracted to spirituality, we already have a very imaginative, it even gave me a word for it. It said, that's why I gotta read y'all them the conversation we had, because I forgot even the word that it said, but it was like, you have a very high aware mind or something like that. And when you have the type of mind that can perceive or want to understand grand concepts, it's easy to get out of yourself and not come back into self. Or it's just easy to just get out of your body or get out of your mind and understand, because that's what you have to do a lot of times to understand certain concepts. If I'm trying to understand a certain type of religion, I can't still be in the same kind of like mental personality of a Christian. I kind of have to separate myself, mentally detach, and put my awareness into something else if I'm truly trying to understand it. I have to take my thoughts and feelings to the side and just, see what's going on over here. And so when you have, a just mind that can do that, when you've experienced certain things, you've seen certain things that the average person hasn't, it is very easy to skip it, to slip it to a very just what people will call mental illness. And it's because what I realized from my depersonalization episodes was that in the mind sometimes it's almost like everybody doesn't have a boat or a raft or a sense of foundation in the water, or even like, because people pertain air to mind, so then I'll say a plane. It's almost like, because so let's say like a storm, the storm would be negative, everything negative memories, anxiety, your hang-ups, just everything that is just negative. You're riding through this storm, and instead of you riding through the storm and making it through, your shit gets torn asunder, struck down, and in that striking down and you falling, you shatter. And it's like you're not able to pick up the pieces. You're not able to find yourself and become whole again, because that storm, whether it was a negative experience, whether it was anxiety, whatever you're being hit with that's throwing you off center. That's another thing I noticed too. Anything that's throwing you off center, demonic. I'm gonna be honest with you. I fuck with the angels and the demons, but anything that's pulling you off center, anything that's just becoming too demanding, anything that's just throwing you off your sense of center, that needs to be checked. And that's that's very like duh, but any thoughts or feelings, because what I noticed in that state was, see, we're in our body, so in a way our body kind of like, when you're in your body, it kind of numbs you in a way from certain thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Like when you're very sober, I'm not gonna say like it doesn't hit you, it doesn't affect you, But when you're in them realms where you feel more of your mental going on, them is like certain thoughts and mental attitudes is like blows. They are like punches. They are like uppercuts. Because what do they even say? They say we have a mental body, we have a physical body, emotional body, a mental body, and a spiritual body, or ethereal body. So, and a causal body, all these, go look it up for yourself. But when we're getting hit with certain thought forms, when we're getting hit with certain things, there's no different than like somebody punching you in the face. There's no different than somebody punching you in the gut. It's no different. It's just your mental body is going through that. And you're thinking, that's why mental things is always such a foggy, shaky ground sometimes. Because the way we're brought up, the way we're taught, it's very physical. So it's like, why do I feel like this, but nothing is around me that's a threat? Why do I, you know what I'm saying? So you gotta do that internal work. You gotta go inside of yourself. You got to. That's the only way you're really going to nip things in the bud. And every action that you do in this physical world is based off of your internal environment. So you might feel this thought that keeps repeating in my mind, it ain't bothering that much, I can deal with it. Or these hang-ups, or these certain things that I have, and it's not too serious, I can, I can just deal with it another time. I need to get to this money. And I be feeling like that. I woke up this morning feeling like that. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Sometimes I don't be sometimes I be feeling like fuck, me all the way on. I be like, fuck this shit. I need to focus on getting money. I need to focus on wealth. I need to focus on, it's just as much as I really sometimes feeling like fuck all this spiritual shit, I'm just about to be a fucking material wealthy mogul and just say fuck all this shit, because balancing this out sometimes is just so fucking a lot. It just weighs down so much, because it's like you're not really having the same experience to me that everybody is having. You're walking through life with more weights on you than the average person, because you're not having the same experience as them. And it ain't like we in a world where that is, people gonna help you, people gonna understand that. There's certain communities now, it's getting more talked about. We still got a lot of fucking more work to do, but it's a lot sometimes, it's a lot sometimes. But we here. We are here. I'm trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to say. I think that might be it. I think that might be it. I want to end it off on this right here too, because there's a lot of talk in the manifestation world, the think good thoughts, all of those things. But I always think it's still important to acknowledge, because sometimes when you're manifesting, you can get so caught up in, it can almost sometimes do you a disservice, because you're so focused on having positive thoughts, keeping yourself at a certain mindset. You're so focused on that it almost, you become angry, because it's I'm still not experiencing that. So still acknowledge the anger and the frustration that you feel. Don't run from it, acknowledge it. What is my new thing? I think it's make peace with it. Make peace with it. Sit with it. You can only make peace with it if you sit with it, if you marinate in it. Because if you don't, you could get stuck. And that's when I'm realizing about the mental space and the emotional space. Feel what you feel, don't get stuck. I feel like sometimes we get so caught up in, I keep feeling this, I keep feeling this, I keep thinking this, I keep thinking this. But the more you do meditation, the more you get more into your mind, you'll really start detaching from that. But also, too, it's really about acknowledging just the totality of what you've been through and what you've experienced. Making peace with it and moving forward. And it's easier said than done. But mentally, I feel like you do yourself a service when you acknowledge it, instead of distracting yourself, or I'm just going to keep saying positive affirmations to, like, you know, I'm just going to keep being positive. We're going to keep being positive. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. You can do that. But you're not really positive. Like, you're in a fake type of positivity. You're like it's more of a force that you're forcing yourself to feel like this. Like, sometimes the only way you're going to really cure that sadness or just whatever you've been through is if you actually sit with it. It's no different than, like, if I have a broken leg and I keep trying to walk on it, I'm gonna do anything, but I gotta sit down for it. And I've had a broken leg before. It didn't heal. It had to heal because the only way it healed was from me laying the fuck down, sitting down, putting the cast on, making sure it gets its rest, not using it like that. So you gotta make sure that you're getting your rest, you're sitting with your emotions, you're healing yourself, and make it a event. You can set up your day to romance yourself. Nice bubble bath, good food, wine, but in that process, you're dealing with the things that you've been through. You're sitting with yourself. You're handling, thoughts, feelings, and emotions that's coming up. But you're not letting it stick. You're not succumbing to it. You see what I'm saying? Like, I can observe something, but I don't have to succumb to it. I can even dance with it, but the dance shouldn't be too long. I should always still be able to come back to a center of self. All right. That's it. That's my last thing. Because I was even, when I was talking to ChatGPT, and I'm probably going to do a part 2 to this, but I was even like, I felt like in that depersonalization moment, it was like I was feeling every single mental illness. But it was like, I just didn't get stuck to it because I was observing it. Like, I still understood that I was observing my mind going through all these thought waves and mental waves. So I was like, well, that's clearly not me, because I'm still observing the storm. I'm observing the crashing of these waves, the mental anguish and chaos is going on right now. So if I'm still able to observe it, that means that that's clearly not me. I can't identify with that because I'm still observing it. Really, I can only identify really with the observer. So, but see, a lot of people, they get stuck in anxiety instead of observing anxiety. You get stuck in depression instead of observing depression. Whoo! You get stuck in guilt instead of observing the guilt and not detaching from it and not taking responsibility. But understanding, like, okay, that's a part of me, that's an aspect of me that wants to come forth. How are we going to deal with this? Because this ain't all of me, because clearly I'm observing this still. So this can be a piece of me, but it ain't all of me, because I'm still perceiving it. Like, I'm still observing it. All right. Yeah, I feel like a lot of mental illnesses is because you lose the aspect of yourself that's observing what's going on. You become so immersed in the, what they say, schizophrenia. You would become so immersed in the voices and the thoughts and the feelings that you make. That's now your identity. With the bipolar, you get so immersed in the ups and downs of your emotional levels that you forget you're observing your emotions. That you're observing the push and pull. You're observing the swing, the pendulum swing. That's even probably gonna be one of my meditations or one of my visualizations. When you get into these chaotic emotions or these chaotic mental states, always sigil, pendulum. Ain't nothing more than a pendulum. I think that's even in the Hermetic studies. And if you can observe it, you can change it. What was that? The double, is that what was the experiment? The split experiment with quantum, with quantum science, where they even found out just the act of you observing something changes the whole trajectory of what it was doing, of what's going on. All right, that's it, y'all. Y'all be easy.